We have no patience as a society, as a culture, as a cricket community. We want runs and we want them now. Cover us in their liquid glory, let us bathe in them. So if you want to make us wait, we turn into giant angry babies. Some batters don't come into Test cricket and start. They don't even come in and do well for quite a while. Most young players are not picked because they are ready, but because their ceiling is that of a 10-year or even a once-in-a-generation type of player. And that's the goal as a selector, right? To find the mythical player a team can be built around. You find a few of those and your job is done. The rest of it is dealing with injuries, form, and role players. Just throw that young player in the sea, and if they float, they are what you have been always looking for. But even great players sometimes sink early on. Garfield Sobers took an age to make any sort of consistent runs in Test cricket. Jacques Kallis and Steve Waugh were the same. And if you think about those three guys, all of them were brought in because they had some kind of all-round skill. So they were kept around, not just because of their batting, but because they could bowl. There are others who were specialist batters. Dennis Amos is a big reason that cricket has a helmet. And after 12 tests, he wasn't even averaging 20. He'd end up at 46. When I saw a young Hashim Amla with no foot movement who seemed almost permanently stuck to the crease, I thought, there is no way this guy is ever going to make consistent runs in Test match cricket. A few years later, I was at the Oval watching him make a triple century. Graham Gooch was about as slow a starter as anyone has ever been, and really doesn't get great until his 30s. And the Kiwis threw in Martin Crowe well before he was ready. It takes a long time to grow a Test batter. There are many pitfalls along that journey. It's not something where they just come out of the box ready. They need food, water, patience, and a little bit of luck. And on a completely unrelated note, Shubman Gill now averages more than 40 in Test match cricket. He is not a baby anymore. I have travelled the cricketing world, and so I've collected two things: the phone numbers of random taxi drivers and overseas SIM cards. Rideshare apps have fixed the first part, and Sally is doing the second. Now, all you need is their eSIM on whatever plan works for you. You activate it and you can use it anywhere in the cricketing world. It helps you save money. It is a global solution to a global problem. Stop fiddling with tiny SIMs and get the one that does it all. Go to Sally.com Good Areas and use the code Good Areas to get an exclusive 15% off your first purchase. Fly free with Sally. India were 95 for 2 when Gill came out to bat. That may not sound like pressure, but for a team kind of trying to ensure that they were going to draw on a very flat wicket, this was not an ideal start. That is not how they wanted to begin. It's hard to bat in Test cricket when you're new as well. I mean, a tall 12-year-old could drive a car, but chances are things would go wrong if we let all of them try. But because of the success stories of some young batters, we get very excited for new young cricketers who come in. But most batters generally peak around the age of 28. The average keeps going up in the 30s because of survivor bias, because only the best players last until their late 30s. But in their 20s, most players struggle to find their way. For 3 years, Shubman Gill basically averaged just below par when he was starting out. He doesn't stand out as someone who was terribly bad, but neither was there enough to protect him from the cricket fans who were desperate for runs. But in the last 2 years, he's suddenly a lot better than we'd expect for someone of his age. It looks like a very early maturation. And it's one of the reasons he's been made captain so young. The other one is, of course, the lack of options. But it's quite clear that he has a level head on his shoulders, that he understands his own game, and he was the right person available to be their leader. But what didn't come at the right time was India's wickets in the final session of day one. And because of Gill's slow scoring rate, they didn't have as many runs on the board as they wanted. And at 5 wickets down on a flat wicket, there was a chance of another 400-ish total. And the problem is that England can score so quickly that those totals are often completely meaningless in the modern game because it has changed so much. Gill, of course, already knows lots about the modern game because he made his debut in 2020, the year, not the format. And that was, if not the eye of the storm, it was certainly close enough for a farm in Kansas to be dropped on your head. For a decade and a half, everyone made all the runs they could have ever wanted. And then the pace-playing pandemic starts, and it is hell on earth for batters. It is not a good time to be a 21-year-old in Test cricket, especially as this period was ruining much more set players who were in their peak. The good news is he could always rely on the sweet comforts of Mother India to heat up his cold streak at home. Or he could also play in an era when India was trying to make their wickets spin sideways because no one could beat them at home. It meant that Gill made his debut when no one was making runs away or at home. And if you look after 15 tests, despite all of this, Gill was almost exactly on par for match factor. So while his average was low, he was making basically as many runs as you would expect, because no one was making any runs. He did actually have a slight dip after this. And because of that, I think people really started to question him even more. Yet in this period, he was already this phenomenal ODI player. Now clearly, MS Dhoni and Michael Bevan never quite lived up to their 50-over records in tests. But there wasn't anything notable that suggested that Gill would do that. He just wasn't making enough test runs in a very tough era. His innings today actually showed him at his best in one-day internationals. England started after lunch by giving him the singles, and he took them. When he had a good matchup or the field was in his favour, he still found boundaries. He batted with control and aggression like his best ODI knocks. England cycled through all their favourite tricks and plans, and he just batted like it was the middle overs of an ODI, and he was going to go as long as possible. Of course, though, the middle overs of one-day internationals, there is one thing that doesn't happen a lot. Induck, either by seam or swing. And that has always been Gill's biggest issue. But there are two ways to think about this. As a fatal flaw, meaning he could never make consistent test runs, or a thing that he would just learn to hide as he gets more mature and understands his game. Gill came into cricket with the wobble ball nipping back violently almost all the time. It probably made his one issue look a lot worse. If he'd made his debut when the outswinger or back of a length had been a dominant ball, maybe Gill might have actually started off a lot better. Unfortunately, that was not what he entered. We're also in an age where anyone with a laptop can be an analyst. I mean, that's literally how I started. So everyone is trolling through, looking for his flaw. And more than a few bowlers were finding it as well. And that's what England tried to do in this innings. Tried to bowl full and straight at him. Then they tried to bowl short at him. Then they tried to bowl wide. Their spinner learnt a carom ball for the occasion. England used 7 different bowlers of varying talent. But when Gill is on, it's as if his batting is on rails. It corners perfectly at high speed without you even feeling a bump. And the best time to bat like that is often the third innings. The steam is out of the game, and for a side like India, who are often on top, it means that Gill could come in and set declaration totals. And he was tagged as a third innings specialist, which if you don't know what that means, it basically means that people were calling his runs soft. And even after this knock, the third innings is still the most important one. But the first innings is not far behind now, which now means he's more of a odd innings specialist. And of course, part of the reason that his average has caught up in the first to the third is this knock. And yes, it was on a flat pitch, and for some of that time, Bryden Castle wasn't even on the field. But when it comes down to it, not all players are made for big innings. In the art of batting, Barry Richards calls it clubbing baby seals, when you're so on top and you just keep going and going and going. And Mark Waugh admitted that once he got 100, it kind of lost all the energy for him, and he felt like his job was done. Shubman Gill looked like he could have batted forever. And we're going to go on about how flat this wicket was, but remember, he batted so long that he exhausted England, and when they came out to bat, they fell apart. The English wickets we kind of expected, but it was the Shubman Gill one that came against the flow. When he's batting good, and when almost anyone of his talent is batting like that on a pitch like this, it's a surprise when they get out. And it completely was today. I felt like Shubman Gill could have just continued to bat forever against this England side. But what is not a surprise is how talented he is, or that he can make these runs. The truth is that we never know with a young player if he's going to make it at this level. But what we have to understand is, either way, it's going to take some time to find out. No one grows up straight away. It takes time, patience, and good luck to become a test batter. And not everyone makes it. But today, Shubman Gill scored 269. To me, it would appear like he's all grown up.
Ross Taylor couldn't see at night or when the clouds were in. Eventually, he had to see an eye specialist who would fix his eyesight. In the 2 years before the change, he still averaged more than 50 in international cricket. The top level of batting talent can basically see in the dark. That is who we are talking about in our new book, The Art of Batting. Head over and order your copy today.